Link, you have a prepaid call from
Free. It's the 30th.
an inmate at the Salinas Valley State Prison, Soledad, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Hello.
Hello, hello, Mr. Lazor. I was just reading a letter from a man on death row, so it's always good to hear your voice.
Well, and the same here. Thank you for taking the call as always. How are you doing, and how is Aaron doing?
We're both doing well. We feel like we're living in the middle of the end times, and the Lord could come back anytime, or the tribulation can start, either one, but we're praying that the God intervenes in the affairs of men because things have gotten so bad, you know.
Yeah, there's some pretty messed up things going on, no doubt. I've been reading I Rode with Tupper book by Pat Shannon, and it's really good. It covers so much ground. It brings back so many memories from things over since about 84 maybe, when I was in touch with a lot of the people that he mentions in the book. So it's yeah, and it shows a whole lot of stuff that I predicted at that time based on what happened to me and what I saw happening was going to happen, and it has happened, and it is happening. So yeah, that's for sure. I received from Don Cena, I guess it's some kind of a screenshot of, I believe it was you in the studio. Do you normally wear like a baseball cap type of a hat?
Yeah, sometimes I do, and sometimes I wear a cowboy hat, and it just depends on the day and my mood, yeah.
And to your left was a woman with dark brunette hair?
That's my lovely wife that I've been blessed to, God has introduced me to, yes.
I thought it probably was, but I wasn't sure if she does the radio broadcast with you or not. So, yeah, well, that's great to finally see a picture of you guys so I can kind of partially put a face to the voices. So, anyway, that was great to get that from Don. And the first time I seen you guys on the air there like that. So a lot going on with me just trying to get a lot of these things accomplished as far as paperwork. I had put in a motion to the court shortly after they denied that petition we were so hopeful for. I put in a motion for them to vacate that judgment and reinstate the case, and I just got a denial about 2 days ago on that, where the judge is completely stuck on the fact that this new case that came down the pike changed everything for me in terms of the relief that I'd gotten. And he even says in stronger terms, he said I was definitely in a position to get relief had the California Supreme Court not come down with that new case that changed everything. But he's totally wrong, because he's missing the whole point of what I raised. He's acting like I raised what that Butler case is about, and it wasn't about that at all. That was only maybe one of the possible steps to the relief I was looking for, and to the situation that I was presenting to him. But he ignored the situation itself and just focused on that one potential step that was optional. It is unnecessary, completely unnecessary to support my issue. So I will now try to go into the appellate court with it, but it's just, I'm so clogged up, it's beyond belief in terms of mentally and emotionally trying to get through those kind of barriers of 35 years of just about nonstop fighting this stuff.
Yeah.
It gets to the point where you just get clogged up and can't push beyond that barrier. So anyway, I'm working with a lot of that stuff. I have some notes here. I'm usually a little more organized when I get on the phone.
Well, no problem.
How is John Lamb doing? And I'm wondering if you guys are in touch, if you can find out why my many attempts to call him, probably at least 50 times, are always apparently hung up on, which is, that's okay. That's when they don't want to take the call. I think they hit number 9 or whatever it is that the recording tells you hit. But I'm just wondering why all this time I've been trying to reach them for a few months now. I know initially it was because John was in the hospital, but he's been out for a while. And I'm told they're back in in the swing of things. So I was wondering, do you have any information on that, or can you find out?
Well, he just interviewed Ruby Ridge, Randy Weaver, and he did a spectacular interview with that man. You're familiar with Randy Weaver and how they killed his wife and his kid, right?
Very much so.
Yep, and so I know he's still recuperating, and he's using a walker now, but he's recovered so much faster than everybody expected. But I know he's just absolutely swamped, and given the nature and the magnitude of the accident, it's just absolutely shocking that he's recovered this much, this fast, and everybody loves the man. But Aaron, I think, has a communication pathway to him much more so than I do on Facebook, and she said she'll reach out to him and find out, what's going on. And it may be that he's just spending a lot of time in recovery mode, but she'll try to find out.
Okay, yeah, if they could maybe just take one call, even if they're too busy to take on my situation in light of all the other ones they're probably trying to handle, if they could maybe just take one call, connect with me, establish a little rapport, tell me when, like if they say, well, 2 months down the line we might be able to do this, and then I won't keep trying to call them.
Right.
I don't really like to say this to people because I'm always very appreciative of you guys doing what you do to take these calls and pay for them, and the time you spend on them and all that. And then even after the calls, all the time you spend putting this stuff out on the air. But sometimes we do go through a lot to get on the phone here, a lot of waiting in line for a long time, a lot of forfeiting something else that, maybe isn't important or necessary thing, that sort of stuff. Again, I'm not laying that on anybody as a,
No, I completely understand. You don't have to apologize, Free. I completely understand where you're coming from. And let me quickly share, I know you have some notes there that you want to get through, but we just recently had another police shooting, like literally 30 minutes away from my house, and it was a officer that cold-bloodedly murdered a young black boy, and it was a white officer. Anyway, they held him responsible. It was just cold-blooded murder, no reason to shoot him whatsoever. And he actually got found guilty in a court of law, which was shocking because it's so rare that any time any of these policemen get held accountable. Well, they sentenced him to 15 years. And I read off last night, I brought up the case and made everybody aware of it, that I mentioned you and about 10 other people that have gotten 30 years, 25 years, what have you, and there's no, victim. And in your case, it was self-defense, and yet this police officer gets convicted of first-degree murder, and he only gets 15 years, and it's just a double standard in our society. With no live top. Right.
With no live.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And Texas also has some type of good time credit system, at least to my knowledge. At least I know they used to, and they probably still do. It's probably stronger than ever, to where he won't actually serve all that 15 years, even if he doesn't get reversed on appeal. My guess is he's probably free on bail pending appeal, which I tried to get, and they denied me. And my recollection, I heard that on passing on the news last night. I didn't really catch much of it, but I did hear a little piece of it. I think he shot 16 shots, right? I'm
not sure the number of shots, but the man's name is Roy Oliver, and he shot a black football player, I think still in high school, named Jordan Edwards. It was crazy. Absolutely.
And they showed the video, right?
The guy
showed the video on TV.
Yeah. The video that I saw, he was pulling away in a car, and he wasn't endangering anybody. There was just a car pulling away, and he claimed he was trying to run over his fellow officer. But even his fellow officer said, "I didn't feel in danger of my life. It didn't threaten me." And then there were some other policemen that tried to cover up for it. But the problem is, the other policemen trying to cover up didn't even get held accountable for doing anything wrong.
Yeah, I see the picture well. Actually, I guess I was thinking, I was confusing some other one they had on there too, where another cop shot somebody who was standing up in the street or in a parking lot or something like that, shot him. Maybe that was the one that was 16 times.
Maybe.
I think it was. So maybe I'm confusing that with a different case, but there goes another one.
Well, and yeah, another egregious one is a Missouri situation where a cop arrests a young man who was inebriated on the lake. He handcuffs him, doesn't put his life jacket on properly, speeds across the lake at like 40 miles per hour. He bounces out of the boat and he drowns. And the cop watches him drown, doesn't try to save him, and he doesn't get held accountable at all. I think he spent like 10 days in jail.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's a Missouri situation.
These things make my blood boil when I see them, and I'm glad you're making comparisons with a case like mine, in terms of even had I done what they said in terms of me being in here 35 years compared to most anybody else and anybody else in any sane situation with a sane type of a sentence spends a terrible, as it is, 10 years or 7 years or whatever, but somewhere more in that range, even if it's up to 15 actual years, but 35 years, that's my whole life gone. And so, yeah, we need to keep making those comparisons. Yeah, there's so much dirty police. I mean, I have the highest respect for police officers that are not dirty cops, and by that term, I'm using it in the sense where it means that they're involved in criminal activity and corruption. So I would stand by and even risk my life for certain cops. I would have stand by Jack McGlam to the end. I would risk my life for that guy, and that means give it. And certain other police officers like that, I have in several different situations been involved in things where, like one of the rescue incidents is where a guy right at an intersection threw his body down in front of a car. There's a red light. He gets the guy out of the car, and as the guy walks around, he jumps up and starts slashing at him with a knife. He slashed his tie, he slashed his shirt, he slashed his suit. And I was on the other side of the road at that red light. I threw the car in park, ran out over to there. Anyway, long story short, I helped, capture that guy because I hated crime and criminals. And so, I'm on the side of honest police, but
this call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
They should not only should they not have a situation where they get let off easy because the judicial system and the law system says, well, we shouldn't hold them to the same standard as everybody else. That's basically what they say, and we should let them off lightly. I think it should be the other way around. I think they should pay a higher penalty.
Amen.
There's the cops that were involved in my case, the ones that falsified evidence, planted evidence, destroyed favorable evidence, and all those things. I met a guy in prison within my first, I think it was probably San Quentin, which would have been 1986, 87 or 88. The guy had a big crater in his forehead, and he wore an eye patch because he had one of his eyes shot out. And it turned out it was those same police that shot him repeatedly, I think about 9 times, because they kept ramming his back end of his car, trying to pull him over, and he thought it was somebody that wasn't real cops, because cops don't normally ram your bumper over and over and over again to pull you over. And granted, the guy was stoned, which I'm not in favor of that, but okay, so that fact shouldn't have resulted in what happened. So he finally pulled over and jumped out of his car, and he had an axe in his car. He was chopping down trees at some other person's house, and he jumps out with an axe and just standing there next to his car with an axe, all freaked out, paranoid, and on drugs, probably hallucinating somewhat. Doesn't swing it, doesn't do anything. The cops are a long way away from him, and they just start opening fire on him. And so they thought he was dead, and he heard them when he was passing in and out of consciousness saying, trade guns, because I'm dirty, I'm on drugs. This is a cop saying that. The cop that shot him, did most of the shooting, was on drugs, and so they traded guns. So because they test their gun, they test the gun of the person who did the shooting. So they traded guns, so they would test the other guy, and not the cop that was on drugs. And this guy never got any relief from that situation. I know he tried for a long time, and those cops were never held accountable for that. They thought he was dead. They dragged him with handcuffs behind his back. They dragged him across pavement with his face just scraping on the pavement across several lanes of the pavement like that, thinking he was dead, and they kept talking like he was dead. And it's, those kind of things happen. And of course, the story that I got is from the guy, but I did verify some of the things from transcripts and reports and things like that are official reports. So I believe everything he told me. I have good reason to believe it.
Yeah, I don't doubt it at all.
Richard Lobato.
We literally
Richard Lobato.
Yeah, Richard. What's the name again?
Lobotto. Richard Lobato. I have not seen that man since way back in the 80s.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Remember his name and his case and his situation. That'd be interesting to follow up and see if whatever happened on that. I wanted to ask you one other thing real quick before I forget, before we run out of time, is you spell your website with 1 E on Jubilee. The word is normally spelled with 2 E's, if I remember right.
Yeah, the King James, the King James Bible only uses 1 E, and because I believe in the King James Bible, that's the way I spell it.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, and I've read
You have 30 seconds remaining.
more than any other, but I probably overlooked that. Evidently.
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to cut us, so we got a little bit accomplished anyway, and I will probably give it a few days again before I call you back and try to have my things a little more in order of some things I
Okay,
want to go
you
over.
should be getting 2 books, one called Miracle in Atlanta and another one called 1 in a Million. I think you'll enjoy both of them, and we're praying for you that God will open a miracle.
Thank you. I already got 1 in a million of weeks back from you.
Oh, good.
From Pat.
Okay.